I took a shine to the pike when we used to visit relatives in the mid-1950s when I was very small, and we ultimately inherited it when they moved on. I recently had spray foam insulation installed in the roof, which left foam spatter over practically everything. The pike has been protected by a piece of hardboard and this water tank insulation. I've already noticed that the glass at one end is quite loose and lifted out quite easily, so that will need to be fixed back in somehow. This is the great reveal. Wow, it's been a long time, Mr. Pike or Mrs. Pike. Working in this confined space presented its own challenges, not least of which was trying to position the camera tripod. I'm just going to wipe the glass gently with this slightly damp cloth. These sticky tape marks, which had kept the glass ends in place, will need to be removed. Of course, these are some of the spatter marks from the spray foam where the cabinet wasn't covered completely. And in the lower left corner as well. Along the top here, some sort of repair has been carried out before we inherited the pike. It's a kind of thick adhesive gauze. This is the end where the piece of glass has actually come out, so I'm lucky to still have that intact. There's a groove round here where the glass will be reattached. Here you can see the material that was used to make the original repair before our time. There's this gold coloured lining which is actually on the inside of the glass. It goes all round, or did at one time go all round, until this makeshift repair was done up here. This is the glass at the other end, which has also had a rudimentary repair, a very rudimentary repair, whenever. And that glass is also loose, so I might try and remove that and have a fresh start. Anyway, I'm glad the pike has come through relatively unscathed, so now I'll have to look at some of those repairs. I think when I'm reattaching the glass at this left hand end, I think I might well try and reach in, and if I can, disguise this break in the background here. I've got a small piece of hardboard here that I'm going to try and use to scrape the bobbles off from the spray foam insulation. Hopefully it shouldn't scratch the glass. It seems from the alignment of the front glass that it's actually, as it were, tipping forward from the top, because the gap is wider here at the top than at the bottom. Now I'm looking at the other end, it's very much the same thing going on here. So it very much looks as though this repair that was done before our time was in some way done to try and remedy that issue. I'm loath to try and replace this. My friend loaned me this roll of heavy duty sticky tape, so I think I might use 2 overlapping strips to completely cover the original repair. Hopefully it'll also make sure that the front glass doesn't actually fall out. While I was using the piece of hardball to scrape the glass, this covering just came away. As you can see, it just peeled off. However, it revealed this old putty, which was very hard. You can now see parts of that gold effect lining on the inside of the glass. What I think I'll do is to use just 1 strip of that sticky tape to cover this up and seal it over the top edge of the casing. One or two of these pieces of putty are on the inside, so I might see if I can reach in there and carefully lift them out. I don't think I'm even going to try and remove this old putty because everything is simply too fragile. I'm just going to file it flat as best I can because it will be covered by the strip of sticky tape and ultimately painted black. As I said, this putty is very hard, and needless to say the filing hardly touched it. So we'll just have to wait and see what it looks like when it's covered by the sticky tape, which of course will be painted black. Well, I thought I'd just try chipping away at this hard edging with a screwdriver, and most of it came off in just these chunks. So that's a lot smoother now than it was before. However, I'm not going to risk it on the glass side. Now that I've been able to get rid of most of that filler across the top, I'm just going to give it a final smoothing down. That's already very much better. I've just been able to loosen this end piece and it's actually coming out quite easily, like so. Now I'm just going to brush around the groove where the glass will be going back. Now I'm just going to very carefully dust inside here, just as far as I can reach. I don't think I'll be any more adventurous than that. Now to use the brush on this end, now to use the duster just as carefully on this end. I'm now going to try to disguise the brake on the background. I've got this paint tester which I think is vaguely the right colour. Well, it hasn't touched it yet. But it turned out to be more of an indentation than I thought. I'll finish it off with just a small paintbrush. I have to wait and see what it looks like when it's dry. Now I've decided that camouflage might be the better option. So I'm going to try and nick one of these reeds from in here and stick that over the space at the other end. Right, well, I've just snipped off this tiny piece and hope I'm just going to attach it using some PVA glue here. Right, well, here goes. Right, well, that's stuck to something, so time will tell. Well, it's the next morning and that disguise seems to have worked. Well, I've gone back to chipping away at this old putty across the top here and been able to loosen the glass. And it's a heavy piece of glass. But the trouble is there are large chunks of solid putty underneath like this. This procedure was full of risk for obvious reasons. Well, I'm still chipping away at this old putty and gradually I seem to be getting there. As you can see, a lot has come away already. I plan to use Gorilla Glue to fix the glass back in place, but it'll need a dust-free surface to work properly. The glue also expands as it sets, so I'm going to have to use it sparingly so as not to ruin the overall finish. In order to prepare for fixing the glass front back in place, I began by carefully brushing the grooves where the glass will be attached. Now I'm just going to carefully clean the inside of the glass. And now the other end. Then a final vacuum of the upper part of the background. Now the dreaded Gorilla Glue. Now the scary part. This has to be just right first time. The casing is slightly bowed outwards, so I'm going to use this clamp to hopefully resolve that and allow the glue to pull it all together. It looks okay, but now it's a case of wait and see. Now on to reattaching the glass to the end pieces by first ensuring there's no dust in the grooves. and at the other end too. Now back to the Gorilla Glue and to attach the end pieces which don't actually make contact with the top edge of the frame. Off camera I held the glass in place with scotch tape, assisted by the closest object to hand, namely a pair of scissors. Now to very carefully turn the cabinet round to do the same thing on the other end. I was better prepared this time. Well, almost. I'm going to use this narrow beading, which I've already painted black, to help disguise the various marks and scuffs around the edges of the frame. I put spots of Gorilla Glue at intervals along the edges and then used more Scotch tape to hold the beading in place while it's set. The corners needed special attention because of the curved glass. I'll now leave that to set for a little while. Now to attach the beading to the ends of the front glass, again using Scotch tape to hold them in place. And the same for the other end. Then it was time to start the job of touching up the worn paint and scuff marks around the frame, as well as the casing itself. A neighbour's pet was clearly feeling left out. Then followed two risky procedures in quick succession. The first was to lift the pike from the water tank where all the work had taken place and carefully place it on the floor next to the loft hatch. second risky procedure was to gingerly lower it to my friend on the landing below. At last the pike would see the light of day for the first time in more than 6 decades.
I've got it.
Right. Okay. Now, I've got to let go.
Oh, go on.
Right. Steadily down. That's it. That's where you are. Exactly.
While I was cleaning the inside of the glass end pieces, I noticed what appeared to be old newsprint around the edge of the outside surfaces. I was drawn in particular to this, which says, "Pat McGrath by Lord Lurgan's Master McGrath out of Mr. Punchard's Pitho." It was double Dutch to me until I searched for this actual phrase on the internet. I came across a newspaper archive from 1876 and found that it was all to do with coursing greyhounds. Master McGrath, of Irish origin, was a very famous greyhound in his day, living from 1866 to 1873. Pat McGrath, born in 1870, was one of his sons, and in this clipping from the Yorkshire Herald and York Herald of the 19th of January 1876, he was on sale for 5 guineas as a stud greyhound. I like to think that the taxidermist, for whatever reason, simply used a newspaper that happened to be lying around at the time. Newsprint update. When I was removing one of the Scotch tape strips, part of the original paint from the back of the casing came away with a piece of the old newsprint stuck to it. The reason for the use of the newsprint itself, of course, remains a mystery. So, can we assume that the fragments of newsprint inside the display case indicate that the pike was preserved in the mid to late 1870s? And was it a family fishing trophy or simply purchased from a shop to be displayed in a fashionable Victorian parlour?